In this tutorial, I'll show you how to UV map a CubeeCraft image to a cube. To set up the NES as a background image, click the plus to open up the Properties panel. Scroll down, tick Background Images, click the black triangle to open up the panel, click Add Image, click Open, go to the folder where you downloaded the NES image file. This button will turn thumbnails on. Select the image and open it. A background image is only displayed in the standard orthogonal views, so change perspective to orthogonal, change to the front view, zoom in with the mouse wheel and change shading to wireframe. I'm going to scale the default cube so that it has the same proportions as the NES model. I'm going to move the background image so that it's roughly centered on the cube. I'm clicking the nudge arrows and I'm going to zoom in with the mouse wheel. I'm going to the object properties of the cube. I'm going to widen the window so that we display 3 decimal places, and I'm going to nudge up the X scale. Now at 1.03 it's slightly too wide, and at 1.02 it's slightly too narrow. So I'm going to go to the 3rd decimal place, put 0.025. That's still slightly too wide. Let's try 0.023, and that's most probably as near as we're going to get it. I'm going to enter 0.5 for the Z scale and nudge that down. The actual location doesn't matter, it's the ratio of the scales that's important. That's just marginally too small. That's most probably as close as we're going to get it. In the view menu, change the view to the top view to Y scale the cube. Move the background image down. And increase the Y scale of the cube. Now that is slightly too big. I can see the value is going to be the same as the X value. The NES model is square from the top view. Close the side panels. Change the view to perspective. Zoom back with the mouse wheel. Drag with the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Open a new window by dragging on the white diagonal lines and make the new window a UV image editor window. Click this button to open uploaded images. Zoom back with the mouse wheel. Now we need to change from object mode into edit mode to UV map the cube to the NES. But before we do that, we must go into the object menu and we must apply scale. Now go into edit mode. Dragging with the middle mouse button to scroll the menu bar. I'm going to go into edge select mode. If I select this vertical edge, it corresponds to the edge at the end of the model where you would cut with the scissors and form a seam. So in the mesh menu, I'm going to edges, mark as seam. With the scissors, you'd have to cut along these 3 edges at the top. So I'm going to select one of those edges, hold down shift, select the other 2. In the mesh menu, edges, mark as seam. And again with the scissors you'd have to cut along the 3 bottom edges. So again I'm going to select one of those edges, hold down shift, select the other 2, and in the mesh menu, edges, mark seam. Now press A twice to select all, and in the mesh menu go to UV unwrap, and we get the unwrap that we want. In the view menu of the UV image editing window, toggle full screen. Now we're going to do a mixture of scaling and moving to match the mapping to the NES. I'm zooming in with the mouse wheel and I'm going to press S to scale and shrink that down. And with all the vertices selected, G to grab to move that over the model. If you accidentally select a single vertex, pressing A twice on the keyboard selects all. S to scale, shrink that down, zoom in with the mouse wheel, shift middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to press G followed by Y to fine tune the position vertically. That's about it. In the view menu, toggle full screen. Drag on the white diagonal lines to close the UV image editing window. Go from edit mode to object mode and change shading to textured. Now we have some dark sides because there's not sufficient light, so I'm zooming back. I'm going to select the lamp, Shift and D to duplicate and move the duplicate to light up the sides. One more, Shift and D. I'm going to set up the material for the model. The model started off as the default cube. I'm going to rename that NES. I'm going to click the material button and rename the default material NES. I'm going to click the texture button and rename the default texture NES. Change the type of the texture to image. Change preview to both. Click the button that lists opened images and select the NES image. This button will pack the image into the Blender file, and that's a good idea. And finally, coordinates set to UV. That's the end of the tutorial. I'll put the finished file and a link to the NES image file on my website www.freemovies.co.uk at the Blender channel there. Thanks for watching, and